everyone. So we're just a couple minutes past the 6:30 start time. So I think we will go ahead and get started. Tonight's event is being hosted by Pratt Fashion, and we're so lucky to have both our amazing Professor Adrienne Jones and April Walker joining us in conversation. The transcription's enabled, and we will be recording this event to share afterwards. And if there's any questions or comments you have, please use the chat. We'll try to have some time for Q&A at the end of our conversation tonight. But with that, I'd like to turn the floor over to Trin and Taylor, who are two of our wonderful students here at Pratt, and will be introducing tonight's event. Over to you two.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Trinity Tatum. I go by Trin, and I am a sophomore in comedy graphic design, and I am co-president of the BSU. So we are honored to have Professor Adrienne Jones and fashion icon April Walker joining us for this special event. Both Professor Jones and Walker are trailblazers in their work.
Hi. Professor Jones was the first Black woman to achieve tenure professor status at Pratt Institute, and Walker is a hip hop royalty in heavily male dominated area and one of the first to dominate in streetwear. And we're so grateful that you are both taking the time to join us and share about your work.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. I'm excited too.
All right, I guess we can get started, huh?
Yep.
All right, April, we'll just welcome everybody in with.
Okay.
Right.
That's a perfect intro.
Everybody, welcome to Brooklyn. Welcome to our talk. I'm so happy to be here with my sister friend, April Walker.
Absolutely.
We just vibe. We just vibe. So I'm excited about this conversation. We're gonna jump right in. So April, I'm gonna start with this image. Okay.
Right.
And I know what your thoughts are. For those of you who don't know, this is the February issue of Vogue UK. Obviously the Black issue, which hasn't been done probably in about, what, 12, 15 years? But this is a little different.
It's very different.
It's very different.
I remember the first time I saw it was on Instagram. And I really had to take a second look because I didn't know if it was like a spoof or if it was real. And then when I really read and investigated and saw that it was a cover, I just had questions first. You know, I didn't understand. So it was very morbid for me, number one. And I didn't feel like, I didn't understand why they would even, styling wise, choose that to represent the diversity and the representation of Black people in all of their many facets and all of their many styles, that we just had this real Black experience that was Black on Black on Black. And there was nothing else really to give me style, to give me who we really are, you know? So, I mean, it was problematic in a lot of ways. And then finding out that it was actually someone that was Black that actually styled it was more perplexing for me.
I agree. I took it a step further and I said, well, you know what, as an artist, I am going to try to look at this as an art piece. But as an educator, I said, well, let me order the magazine and read the editorial, and maybe I'll get a better insight as to why it was done this way. And I did that, and the insight didn't come. I mean, they talked about race and they talk about the lack of diversity in the fashion industry, which we're all aware of. I
Right.
just have a very difficult time with the imagery. And so they said they specifically used African artists, African models, which for me was fine, except this depicts that all Black women in Africa look like this.
Right.
Um,
There's no like full
and
spectrum and
you
it's
go
not,
from Ethiopia to Senegal to Nigeria to Somalia. You have people that look you and I and everything in between and including this.
and not to mention if you're talking about those areas, we're talking about colorful prints and like a lot of different things besides
Black.
that.
Right, right. So again, like I said, is this a little play on words, Black and Black and Black and Black? And then again, looking through the pages, also very disturbing, because we have to recognize that the Vogue audience is mostly people, mostly white, okay? And we've spent all our lives on this planet trying to show people who we are rather than be defined by others, especially when it comes to the fashion and beauty industry. And this says that we all look the same, and we all strive to have straight hair because we got these crazy Black wigs on. And it made it come across, as we've been thought of for as long as we've been here, that we are all the same. And that there's nothing different between us. One represents all. And that's how we're thought of in the beauty industry. We can, if we start,
Industry. I mean, we can go across the
Right.
gamut, and
Right,
that's the problem.
right,
So from that perspective, that is a problem,
right,
that cover, because it's just reiterating that.
exactly. So, therefore, it became a problem for me with us, and I'm just like, yeah, no, you could have done better by us.
Right.
Okay, so let's move on to next. So
But that is timely because it's Black History Month, and
it's
that
Black
is
History Month, and this
right
is the best you could show the
right.
world.
That's all you got.
Again,
Like
this is the
to
UK.
have a cover and grace a cover like that. That's a big deal.
Right, right.
We're
And
supposed to bring the heat.
well, I won't set it on fire right now. We'll save that. So we have so many similarities, and I know that's part of what brought us together, because you shine, I shine, and together we just make a brighter light. And I love that about us. We always have each other's back. But I want you to talk about, we've both been in similar situations, as in the only Black woman in the room.
Right.
Our conversations are a little different. So I want to ask you, go back to when you decided you were going to do Walker wear in the hip hop world, which we know is so misogynistic,
chauvinistic. We could go
all the ethics,
all
all
the
the
things.
and all the isms.
Right.
So how did you fight that battle? Because it is a battle to become the first woman with a multi-million-dollar business in the hip hop rag trade.
I think that I was really naive to fear, and honestly, I think it was the grace of God. Let me start there. But outside of that, I had the gumption to go for these dreams because I didn't know better, And
that's
that was
something else that I have in common, right? We don't know how to fear things.
right. So, but I grew up with a lot of love with my parents, and I was taught what I could do instead of what I couldn't.
Exactly.
And that really helped me because that brought me to drown out the world in terms of the naysayers and what couldn't be done. So I wasn't looking at it as what wouldn't happen. I was looking at it as it had to happen, you know. The other part was literally I was in love with hip hop and everything about hip hop at that time. It was the 80s. It was very anti-establishment and it was very rebellious, so to speak, to what was going on in society. We weren't being heard. Our voices were being we were oppressed and suppressed our voices, and you didn't see our images or hear our stories in the news in a positive light, or even know the things that were going on in our neighborhoods. And here came this music and this force and these voices that were telling stories that were resonating with me and tribe members like me all around the world, but so that was exciting to me because that became our CNN, you know,
Right.
and so that was really important. And then you just became committed to that movement, and then it became a culture, right? Because it wasn't just music. You were listening, you were going to the parks, in the parks outside they'd actually have DJ tables, and you could dance outside in the parks and the playgrounds, and you could go to the gyms. I'm going way back, and you would hear DJs in the school gyms, and then you would see graffiti on the subways, and it was art. It was art that kids were getting arrested for. And now it's just so ironic that you can walk New York and it's an outside museum and people are getting paid commissions to do this art. So I've watched things change and become full circle, besides the dancing and, going to Coney Island and watching them dance on Sundays at the Himalaya. I'm really dating myself now, but it was just all of those things that just gave me a rush that I can't explain. And I wanted in. And I remember I was in college and I went to Dapper Dance. And the idea of seeing
Another icon.
another icon, someone who really set it off for me, because he was my confirmation that I could. And seeing him in an establishment in Harlem with someone that looked like me, that was actually making clothes for a certain customer, and it was us, and he was doing fabulous, better than Gucci, better than Louis Vuitton, and all of these people at this time, all these companies, because they didn't want us in those stores at that time. So they would actually follow us around, and you'd be so uncomfortable going in those stores to shop, because they literally would be they didn't letting they really didn't want you in their establishment. So to have someone that was catering to us and saying, we can make what you want, but even flyer, was really, really exciting to me. Now, I have to say that Harlem and Queens and the Bronx and Staten Island, Brooklyn, all of these places at this time, we didn't have MTV, we didn't have the internet, you didn't have even videos at that time, besides Video Music Box, very local, but segmented. So we didn't know what everybody was doing. So at that time, boroughs looked very different. And where you were from, you could tell by that borough. So I wasn't thinking past Brooklyn at that moment, but I knew that I wanted to create for my tribe. And I was representing Brooklyn at that moment. So we just, they say success leaves clues. And that's what we did. I followed the crumbs. I saw Dap had a cutting table. I saw he had jukis, he had singers. So I started going in the New York Times in the liquidation section. And, we figured it out. Like literally, I always say, if you want something bad enough, you'll figure it out. And we just reverse engineered. That's what we did. And we didn't know what we were doing. I'll be honest. I was a junior in college. I was at New Paltz, and that thing had a burning desire for me to do it, and I opened up a hole in the wall in 1987, and it was called Fashion in Effect. And we had a homemade sign from pearl paints that we made that lasts the whole time we had that store. And we did everything from airbrushing to acrylic painting to making sequins, tuxedos, gowns, velour sweatsuits, denim, leather coats, puffers. Like, we did it all. And we had so much fun. Our shop became a magnet for hip hop because word travels, you know, especially at that time. Two friends tell two friends, because hip hop was just blowing up, you know. So I think that we were authentic in who we were and really believed in something that wasn't there. The real thing for us starting Walkerwear was because you couldn't find anything in the stores at that time that represented
Right.
us.
Right.
So from my shop, I started seeing like Biggie and all of these people that started coming in. They weren't who they are now, but they were young, aspiring artists that were trying to be creative and do what they loved, and we gelled together. And I think from that experience, I started listening to my customers, and I would hear them say, we want deeper pockets, we want more leg room, we want lower crotches. So we started doing those things. And once, if you're listening hard enough, you'll pay attention and you start saying, okay. So that is how we made our first suit, called the Rough and Rugged suit. And that Rough and Rugged suit just took a, you know, and it started off Walkerwear.
Right. Right. See,
That
my
was,
story.
but to your question directly, being the, you know, that was, you know, the trailblazing part of it, and we can get into that. I want to hear your story, but I started before streetwear.
That's
You
right.
know, it wasn't called streetwear.
Right. It
It
wasn't
was
called
just
street.
me really trying to fulfill a void that wasn't being, like, the market wasn't there. And I saw, like, I want to create stuff for my tribe. It was that simple. And I didn't think man, woman, I couldn't, I was really just fulfilling a purpose and serving at that moment and doing what I love, right? Feeding my passion. And being honest, I saw this as a way that I could make money too and do what I love.
Absolutely.
That was exciting to me.
Absolutely.
What about you?
Well, our backgrounds as far as families, very similar. I was always told, whatever you wanted, if you want it bad enough, go get it. I'm a daddy's girl, just like you. So we had that strong background, and because of that, I didn't know anything about fear, because I had two amazing people on either side of me. So it was like, oh, just go get it. Yeah, go get it.
Right.
And so I've always had a thing for working in skins, leather, suede, and furs, and started doing that and going around. So I was my pattern maker. I was my sample hand. I was, I was the production person. I was the delivery kid, and I would get into some boutiques because I would say, oh, I'm just delivering for Adrienne Jones,
Yeah.
And
I
then
know all those
there were
tricks.
opportunities. That's right. There were opportunities, Bergdorf, and there was a store also called Fiorucci, and they would have designer days. So I loaded up my stuff, and I remember this friend of mine I had gone to school with, and her mother kept saying, why mother was in real estate. And so she was always buying from me. And she says, I don't understand why you aren't in, big stores and big boutiques. And I said, well, and sat down and told her the story. She was an amazing Jewish woman. So she made an appointment for me to go to Berkeley. And I said, okay, now here's the plan. You're just gonna rep, but don't ever tell them that I'm the designer. And at the time I was doing hand knitted leather and suede sweaters. So we get up there and lay everything out on the table, and the buyer, for I don't even remember what floor we were on, she was like, I've never seen anything like this before. This is going to be great for our customer. And this conversation went on for about 20 minutes. And then so she said to my friend's mom, she said, Pat, are you the designer? And she completely forgot everything that I had told her.
Okay.
And because she was that excited, you know, the woman is getting ready to write up the invoice. We were right there. And she said, no, no, no. Oh my God, I want you to meet Adrienne.
That was
Face
it.
changed. That was it. Suddenly she didn't know how she was going to display the sweaters, and maybe this is not really the market.
Mm.
And that did it. That did it. And I was never defeated. I just decided, you know what? I have clients. I always wanted to keep it small. I never wanted to own my own store. I just, truth be told, I didn't feel like I liked people enough to have to do that every day.
Right.
And so a lot of my friends were starting out as actors, and they were in the music business. So that kept me going. And of course, I had a regular 9 to 5. And then I'm going to really fast forward. The opportunity came for me to teach at Pratt, and I was like, oh, you know, I'm great at what I do. I'll give it a try. Never even imagining that it would become a career and a game changer for me, because it allowed me to move in and out of spaces that the fashion industry really didn't. You know, they really compartmentalized you and where you went, and you were never going to be the head designer, and that was the truth.
Yes.
As long as you were working for somebody.
And that's
So
a
I said,
fact.
let me give this a try, and I'll make that part of the story short. But my first 10, 15 years at Pratt were hard. It was a struggle. I was young, and I was Black. That wasn't what was happening at Pratt at the time. So we'll skip through.
What years were those?
I got here in the late 80s.
That was around the same time.
Right. Absolutely. So we were in the same boat. We were just on different ends. You know, we couldn't see each other for the fall,
Right.
but we were there. And it was a fight.
Yeah.
And again, coming from, you know, the people that I come from, again, if it's something that you want bad enough, then you fight for it. And I did. And that gave me the first first Black female as a full-timer. This is not just in the fashion department, this is across the campus. And then there was a pause, and all the time I was applying for tenure, and then the transition came. And then I was like, wait, does that make me the first? And everybody was like, yeah. But the thing about it is, and I have to thank my family and my friends for around me, because when you're in a fight like that, when you win, it doesn't feel like winning.
Right.
Because you've had to go through, you know, and you're just like, damn, I'm just glad I got over this. You know, my mother was like, no, we need to have a party, and you know, but it still leaves its mark. Battles like that, you don't just walk through the fire and just come out and say, yeah, I'm great, I'm okay.
Tell me about it.
So in the midst of that,
well, salute to you for sticking it out and for doing that, because of you, you open more doors. And I appreciate you so much for your spirit and for just still carrying the torch and always being a beam of bright light.
Well, you shine, I shine. We shine together. So I appreciate you right back there. So Black Dress came about because we all of us who are in the industry know that there always has been a lack of diversity in the industry. And there was someone who was speaking at Pratt, and made the comment that the only things that Black had attributed to the fashion industry was hip hop. So when my head finished spinning all the way around and I was able to put it on straight, I was like, what is happening? You know, where'd you get this from?
Right.
And I'm a graduate of FIT, very proud graduate of FIT. And one of my biggest, and I say investors, me, and mentors, and adopted me as her godchild, was a woman by the name of Clara Branch. And I have to segue to her because without the foundation that she built, Black dress would have never happened. And after the assassination of Martin Luther King, she started the Soul Club at FIT. And from there, it went to the Soul Club Fashion Show, which was actually one of the big events on campus, bar none. And not just because I was a designer in it and a model in it, but we laid a track.
Right.
And there were a lot of young Black designers, not just FIT grads, because it was open to anyone. A lot of models that came through. It was just, again, same time period that you were in it. It was an amazing time. And you felt appreciated, you know. Right. It was an audience that came out and they were cheering us on. We started traveling. So anyway, she stopped, she retired, but she always kept this scrapbook. And because of her and everything that she did for the students of color at FIT, I had quite a knowledge of Black designers. Right. I thought I had an excellent knowledge until one day I was able to get hold of her scrapbooks and actually go through them. And they dated back, you know, almost as far as there was print. And so between that and that statement that we made, that brought up a, I'll show you moment.
Okay.
And, but that too was a fight. I told by another person of color, nobody wants to hear that story. And my response was, you think nobody wants to hear the story because you don't know the story.
Right.
But let's make it clear that the fashion industry as we know it today would not even exist without people of color. Okay.
And that's why we have to tell those stories.
And we have to tell those stories. And not just Black people, but Asian people and people from Puerto Rico. I mean, my entire team.
Stories, yeah.
Yes, my entire team of sample hands were all Hispanic, you know? So I was like, no, this has got to happen. And another battle ensued. They didn't even want me to call it Black dress. That, wow. You know, the racial overtones. And I was like,
that's wild.
And literally, I mean, I had people that were behind me, but the push to get that show up and running was tiring. It was tiring. I remember up until the night before, I was still on the phone trying to get money to cover the cost of everything. And we did it. And we did it so large that it was opening night, 2014, opening day of Fashion Week. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the naysayers were like, you know, nobody's coming to this. This is just a small school thing, blah, 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 blah. And that night, April, we had over 500 people show up for opening night.
That's amazing.
So
I have the pictures from it.
It's on the website, you know. Okay. And me, I'm used to being the behind the scenes person, and suddenly I'm up front with, you know, everybody's asking me questions and my head is spinning like, where did all these people come from? And, you know, but again, love and the appreciation that came for it.
Priceless.
It was priceless, and it was mind blowing because there's another I'll show you moment, because it was like, yeah, people are interested and people do want to know.
Right.
And every day that show was open, it opened in February and it closed in April. There were busloads of people. Even security would say, like, we've never seen anything like this. And it was at Pratt. And
That's amazing.
so we still continue it. The goal, I won't say the end goal, but the goal is to actually do the exhibit that I want to do. We had, of course, budget constrictions and space constrictions, so we were only able to highlight 10 designers.
Right.
They were 10 amazing designers who are still doing amazing things. And we've got a book in the works. We've got a YouTube channel, Black Dress YouTube channel, and COVID got in the way because you were supposed to be one of the interviews on there, but
We'll do
get
it at another day.
and of course Instagram. So we work as a resource venue. We've done a lot of work with the African American Museum in Washington, D.C. And we continue to work with them. So we're doing things.
Doing big things.
Yeah.
Big things.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing you talking about Black dress in the exhibit. And the thing I'm picturing is a connection with the metaverse at some point. So I want you to think about that, like, because there's so many ideas that can come from that. And we can talk about that offline, but my head is spinning on like the future and what that looks like for you there. So I'm excited.
Yeah, we're very excited because, and you know, when you've been pushing your ideas and your concepts for so long, and it really only takes an opening. I always call it just let me get a toe in the door. You know, I get that far, and I can make the rest happen. I can make the rest happen. I've never stopped believing in it. I can't tell you how many times I've heard no. And that's just like, okay. Because I know what the turnaround is, you know, as when it kicks off to the level that I know it's going to be, we're going to have to stop answering the phone.
Right.
Like, we're going to have to get somebody's like,
That's
oh,
the goal.
wait a minute.
That's the goal, right? So you said no, and it's an interesting thing, how many times you heard no. So I want to go into that because part of my journey has been building on no's. And I mean that in the way of, if I paid attention to the no's, I wouldn't be talking to you now.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so I'm thinking about my journey and how many times I heard no. When I first wanted to open the shop, my mom and most people, so going back to the 80s, being an entrepreneur was not considered sexy. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't something that everyone was doing. It was considered crazy. Like, are you kidding me? At that time, it was get a really good job, get security. Right. You know, get stability. So, you know, those were the things most people that Americans were doing, you know, and I just had this gumption of something different, and I saw that. And I remember how crazy people thought I was with the homemade sign and all of these different things. And so the one thing you have to do in my mind, and I'm talking to all the creatives that are listening, is get out your own head about perfection and what perfection looks like when you start. Because if you wait for that, you'll never start. Start before you're ready. Because once you commit to it, somehow the world will conspire to assist you along the way and guide you. Right? But you have to be committed and you have to be all in. No plan B. You can have a plan B in the background if plan A doesn't work out, but you can't think about plan B because it's only plan A, you know? So it's just like, if you're a gambler, you know what that means, right? I don't gamble, but my work was my gamble. My
Right.
dream was my gamble, you know, and it was all in, all or nothing. And at every stage, I took losses too, a lot more losses than wins. But I think that if you're a creative or if you're an entrepreneur, you want your own business, you have to be willing to fail miserably and learn from that. I don't consider, now looking at life and how many failures I've had along the way, I understand that those are just stumbling blocks to prepare you for that road ahead. So usually when we don't, if we fail or perceive failure, because I think they're learning lessons, right? I think that either we're not ready for it at that moment, or it wasn't the door that was supposed to be open for you, and God had something better waiting for you, or timing, you know. But from every situation you can grow. And from every situation, I was awake enough to know that, and to be able to assess and to stop and to say, what could I have done differently? And so, sometimes, I'm not going to say a lot, but it was probably at least a 50-50, 60-40. It wasn't always me doing something wrong. It could have been,
The timing.
I mean,
Mhm.
or the other person across the table, so many factors, right? But what I'm saying is, if you believe in a dream, trust that process and
Right.
don't stop. You
Right.
might have to pause, but don't stop. You know, assess, do damage control, and keep going, because that's how you grow. You go through it and then you grow through it. And I think that that's really helped me a lot, as well as knowing that a fall is not fatal. And I get back up and I'm walking again forward. So knowing that, and knowing after the first time you fall, I didn't die. And you could take people laughing at you. See, that's what a lot of people, we get in our own head and we get ego involved. And once you do that, it's a wrap. So you have to, if you have a business, if you have an art form that you really love and you're passionate about, it doesn't matter what other people think. It's what you believe and what you need to execute and put out and give to the world at the end of the day. And I think if you really want it bad enough, you better be prepared to answer the question. And it's no judgment, but know why you're doing it. Are you doing it for the love to give to the world? And is this for you to make a living? Or do you want to be $100 million company? Do you want to be a $5 million company? And get tunnel vision about what your vision is. Because the more you can have that target, it's a bullseye, right? And it really helps you in your planning and your blueprint and your process, because you know what to say no to, you know what to say yes to, and your discernment skills are that much better. So all of those things are really key and paramount to your experience as an entrepreneur. And the confidence that you have is knowing that you know, right? So because all opportunities aren't opportunities for us. That's just a fact. But you have to understand that and really be tunnel vision, because otherwise we can get off track, right? And I know that from experience. I'm not speaking from not being off track. I've been the person to, oh, this is an opportunity, and this is an opportunity. And then you're at the end of your year and you're like, well, what did I accomplish for me? You know, for what my vision is, that bullseye. So I think those things are important. And then I guess we can get into the man woman thing, because we both have been in rooms where we've been the only women in the room, and dealing with that, as well as sometimes being the only person of color in the room. So you want to
Yes.
cut that off?
It's very interesting, because even when the struggle was very hard, there was always somebody that opened up that door just a little bit so I could see the light. And one of the things that I learned, that when God says no, you have to recognize a lot of times that's a blessing. You know,
Yeah.
you got to be able to feel that and know that and walk in that and
Yeah.
say, okay, so this isn't for me, you know? And again, like you said, April, mistakes have been made. Sometimes I was just like, what do you mean no? You know, I'm going for it anyway. And it was a waste of time. It was a waste of time. And that inner voice, that subconscious, that thing that tells you, no, don't walk down that street. That's just God speaking to you. And we have to learn to trust ourselves enough to know that that voice is going to take us to where we need to be. So being in that room, in that space, and it's happened to me more times than the other way around. Just being, you know, when I'm in a room with people who look like me, it's usually part of my tribe, you know. But if it's business, even going to school, I wasn't just the only Black person in the class. I was the only one in the department.
Right.
You know, so you take a lot of hits. You take a lot of hits, and you got to know which is worth fighting for.
Yep.
What's your end goal? If your end goal is to get here, then you can't let anything that anybody says or throws at you or tells you no, you can't let that get in your way. It's just like, okay, I'm gonna go back and do this another time and another way. And Dad used to always say to me, he said, do you ever accept no as an answer? And I was like, sure, if that's the answer I want. If it's not, I'm gonna hang up.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna call again, and I'm gonna keep this going until, and I've had to do that all my life. So it's okay for me. It's okay. And I always believe if you come across somebody and you're not sure that they're gonna give you what you want, always go in believing there's a 50% chance that they'll say yes.
That's right.
So what you present to them is what can turn them around and change that. And I think as women of color, we've had to learn how to do that, because you walk in a room where you're the only, people already have their preconceived notions of who we are. That goes back to that magazine cover, you know? So they automatically think that, you know, they're able to tell you who you are, where you should be, how you should get there. And that's not who we are. And we've had to fight always to be heard, then to be understood, and then to have people realize we are a force to be reckoned with. And then we can take the lead in any game. And that's not just in the fashion industry, that's in any industry. The tiring thing is that we constantly have to prove ourselves. Like every time we walk into another room, through another
Over
door,
and over again.
and we have to do it all over again.
No matter what that success looked like the last time.
That's right. That's right. That's
And the
right.
other thing is the difference between being Black and white is if you are Black, you don't get a second chance.
That again, please.
It's real.
Okay. That shot, you got to come in there and you got to square your shoulders back. You got to go in, and like April said, you already know who you are. You already know what you are capable of. You can't let anybody tell you different. And I just told this to a student last week. What other people think of you is none of your business.
Absolutely.
You know, so you've got to turn on your light and shine as brightly as possible so that you can go in there and come out with what you want.
And then speaking of that light being bright, I think community is important. And I think that I'm hopeful in the sense of, I feel like through this pandemic, especially, and since that I see residue of community and people being more enlightened about understanding that how we need to shine our light with each other and for each other. And just because I light your candle doesn't mean that my candle isn't still bright.
It's gonna go out.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So we're just shining more together, and there's so much power in community and
Yes.
us and our magic and the things. And I always say lateral cooperation creates vertical movement. And what I mean by that is a chain is as strong as the links connected to it.
Connected to it.
So, you know, so together we are such a mighty force. And I think we have to remember that, because we have so many resources and ways we can lift each other up and empower each other to grow in more than just financial, you know. So if we did that, besides spending money with Black owned businesses, we would be really in good shape, you know. But
Yes.
those are some of the things we need to work on. And then the other thing I want to say, that we need to look at this Black Lives Matter, yada, 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 as human rights. And until the whole entire world sees it as a human rights issue, we're always going to be in this problem that we're having in the world right now, because it is human rights. It's like we're human and we need as much focus on what's going on with Black people as every other movement that's being championed. And it's just as important, if not, to me, it's so important because it's a whole people.
Well, there's an old saying, until we are all free, nobody's free. So, April, I know you and I, we can keep this going at least midnight, but I know there are some people who have questions. But I want all of you to know, yes, repping my girl, okay?
I love it. Thank you.
April has a lot of knowledge. It's a little book, but there's so much
I
knowledge.
like that you have the little tabs. That means you
Girl,
really
please. What? And
love
bring
it.
it out and tell somebody. So you can go to her website and get it. And this way you can always have a little piece of her around and some of that knowledge. There's some real wisdom in here.
And I want to thank Pratt Sustainable Fashion as well as Pratt. I always say sustainability starts with people times planet. So it's the people and the planet. That's real sustainability. So we need each other independently and interdependently to win. So I think you guys are doing that tonight by having this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. Tessa, anybody have any questions for us? Hi.
There's so much love and appreciation in the chat, but no one has asked a specific question yet. Just a lot of emoji appreciations. If anyone does have questions to add for Professor Jones or April Walker, please add them in the chat. And I know one of the things we talked about, since there are of course so many students in the audience, is the changes, what you've seen from those days when you were both students till now. If you maybe want to start with sharing that, and then we'll see if anyone has any questions added.
I'll jump in with just the time I started, there was no internet, which is a major change, technology. If I think about what we did then, and if we had those tools now, it would be amazing. You have the ability to speak to everyone at once around the world. And it has advantages, it has pros, and it also has cons, but it's a tool that can be used so cleverly with, and now we have the metaverse, which is also exciting because you can really, that's going to be a whole new world. I think it's going to be the new website, the new internet in the years to come, so I think that the possibilities are endless right now. I think the competition is much steeper, but I think the internet allows everyone fair play, so to speak, and you can make a living depending on what you want to do. You can really be successful and have a great life right now because everyone's on the internet. So, I think it's amazing. And then when I think about fashion and technology and how that's been married together, it's amazing. You're seeing liquid becoming fabric and, all these new technology, textiles is endless to what's being done. Like I remember we had to cut patterns. We didn't even have you know, the
Right.
technology now that's in it, like in renderings and just everything. Like it was literally us drawing.
But I
What a-
just want to add, whatever area it is that you get into, bring your passion,
Mhm.
because you're going to get the good and the bad. And if you're not passionate about it, if you don't love, um,
Yeah,
recognize that it's not for you, and that's okay too,
it is okay.
you know. But I tell my people all the time, find what it is that you love, and then figure out a way to make money from it,
That's right.
you know, because it's so much easier to get up in the morning,
And do what you
um,
love.
and do what you love, because there's no time set. It's not, you know, you'll never hear a creative say, oh, I got this 9 to 5. That's not what we do. You know,
Uh-huh.
we may work from 9 till 9 and then stop and take a break and realize, oh, I thought it was 30. No, it's 2 a.m. Because
Right.
we
That's
love
it.
that.
When
And
you do
we
love,
immerse ourselves in that.
it's true.
Well, now I've opened the floodgates because now we have so many questions pouring in and we only had a few minutes left with both of you. But I see wonderful questions. And I think one that Sarah has shared, and if you'd like to speak your question aloud, Sarah, of course, feel free. I don't know if you'd like to come off mute and ask for yourself.
I can.
Great, go
That's
ahead,
it.
Sarah.
Sure. So my first question, as Professor Jones will know, I always have multiple questions, but my first one was that just with so many uphill battles and so many times hearing no, how do you make sure to like take care of yourself, and how do you just keep going through all of that? Because for me, a lot of the time, or just sometimes, it feels like, you know, like I don't want to be the one in charge anymore. I don't want to be the first one to do these things, to found this, to president, whatever. And like, it just feels like a burden that I didn't entirely sign up for. And I do still want to lead in all the ways that I do, because I can see all the impacts that I'm having and I can see the difference that I'm making, but it's tiring. And like, sometimes you just want to have an easy path to take. So how do you like mentally stay okay?
I pray, and prayer can be anything fills you up from inside. Okay. Um, and is it tiring? Absolutely. Every day, all day. But that's where the passion comes in at. I tell you all the time, you have to rest. You have to take care of your body. This is it. This is
Yeah.
all you've got, you know? And if you're blessed, you'll have it for 60, 70, 80, 90 years. You have to take care of this. And when you don't get enough rest as a creative, everything goes haywire. You can't think straight. And this is stuff that you know how to do. This is stuff that you breathe. But if you're not taking care of yourself, everything that allows you to create goes awry. And if you are not producing at your best at all times, and there are times that you won't, but because you already know your best is, sometimes you get to slide off the other stuff because nobody else knows. Nobody else knows but you. Hydrate. Oh my God, getting you people to drink water. You would think I was asking you to drink Clorox, you know? But again, you have to take care of yourself. And I understand, especially with you all being in the studios and everything, you feel like if you sleep, you won't have time. But it's the absolute reverse. If you rest your body and rest your mind, I know for me, anything creative that I'm working through, actually anything in life that I'm working through, the answers come to me when I'm asleep. And then I get up and I can follow through on it. I was like, yeah, that worked.
Yeah.
But you miss that inner voice if you don't allow your body to rest.
I want to piggyback on that and say, amen first. And B, I want to say, you know, speaking from experience of being a creative that's experienced burnout
Mm,
a few times, I will tell you, I'm really big on self-care. And I say self-care starts with self-prove. So we all have different toolboxes. It sounds like you're probably an A personality, very driven, and it does get
yeah.
tiring. I can't lie to you. It gets tiring, you know, but what I will tell you is get it. You're young now. So you can start implementing these practices and making yourself non-negotiable now.
Mhm.
And I mean, you can set, you make time for everything else in your schedule, your meetings, all the programs you're in charge of, your studies. And I don't know what else is going on in your day, but I know you show up because I could see who you are already. So my advice would be to show up for yourself as well. And
Exactly.
find out what those tools are you need. Each one of us, our toolbox looks different. For me, it's prayer, it's meditation, it's visualization, and it's working out. I feel good after I do it. I feel like I did something for myself. I know I need my health because I won't be able to carry my dreams if I can't move.
That's right.
And I've learned through science, you know, you hear all this stuff about sleep and you might want to shrug it off because you're young. But then when you look at the actual science and you understand that sleep allows you a longer life, it helps you with your brain, it helps you be more creative, it replenishes you, and it really helps you to go the distance. So there are no shortcuts and there's no microwavable success, and it's not a race, it's a marathon. So be good to yourself in the process and find the things that feed your soul. And they could be a bubble bath. It could be a bath once a week. It could be a bath once a night. It could be, you know, Sundays are my day to pamper myself. And I'm going to make sure to find 15 minutes a day to start, to take a walk or whatever that looks like for you. Take baby steps to build into practicing this, because that takes work, to be that person, not to feel guilty about doing everything else for everyone else and taking time for yourself. But I would implore you to start those practices in baby steps, because once you get those baby steps into disciplines, you're going to fall in love with them. And then that time is going to start. And then I would say also, you could even have a blueprint. You have like a worksheet, like you have a weekly planner, color it up and look at how much your time you're spending on certain things. And then look at how much time you're spending on yourself. And that way you can see how you need to integrate you into the picture more.
And PS, learn to say no.
Absolutely.
Learn to say no. Learn to step back and save yourself. Learn to say no.
That might be sort of the perfect bow on our time, because we have so many questions in the chat, which is clearly evidence that we could do this all night, and we should definitely do this again. But I do think, to what you were both speaking to, you know, you have both taken your Thursday evening with us, which we are so grateful for. We're so appreciative of you both making the time, because the time does come from somewhere else, you know, maybe a bubble bath or a nice relaxing evening, and we're so grateful. I don't know if you two want to take a few more questions. I think this might be a good stopping point, and then we'll have to definitely plan a follow-up conversation.
I just want to say something that April has been posting all month, that, you know, we enjoy showing up and speaking to people who are interested in what we do, but Black History Month is 365 days of the year, you know, so we get so many calls during these 28 days.
Yeah.
We do this every day. We just don't do this during the month of February.
You just don't get calls the other 11 months.
So we would honor the opportunity to come back and do this. Hopefully one day, we'll be able to do it in person. But if April's up for it, I can take a few more questions.
Sure.
Beautiful. I see. And then also let's put a date on the calendar for next month and keep this going. But I see that Madeline had a question they wanted to ask.
Hi, my name is Madeline, and I recently graduated last spring. Sorry, it's a lot of noise. I live in New York City. I think for me, I guess post-grad, like my biggest struggle is trying to find balance between like taking care of myself and also like understanding like what do I want. I would say like the best thing is like I've been given a lot of like great opportunities and I work a lot and I'm trying a lot of things out, but it just feels like I'm doing a lot. And I don't know if it's a good thing for me to be trying so like to be trying a lot of things out. Like should I focus on like one thing? Like I don't know if my question if it makes sense. But I don't know. I just feel
Madeline,
sorry.
I would say take every opportunity that life gives you. And will you come home? I wear a day out. Like I'm asleep before my head hits the pillow. Because there will be times when there are no opportunities coming, and use them all as learning experiences. And you'll find what you like, what you don't like, what works for you. And you'll also get the community that April was talking about by doing different things with different people. It's okay to show up. It's also okay to say, I'm tired, I need to go lay down. So I know what both of us are saying is put yourself first. And it's the same thing in finance. They always tell you, pay yourself first before you do anything else. Pay yourself first. So this is another form of paying yourself, is taking care of yourself. So put that at the top and everything falls underneath. Whatever else you need to do to take care of you so you can be a part of all these amazing opportunities that are coming your way, do that first instead of taking care of it last. You got to eat. I know sometimes people's like, oh, I haven't eaten since Tuesday. What are you talking about? You haven't eaten since Tuesday? How are you supposed to do that? So start with you. Start with you. You are the most important part of that equation.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That was a good answer.
We have another question, another person who would like to ask a question. Jessenia, would you like to go ahead?
I'm Jasenia. And my question was, April, I saw you in a documentary a couple years ago. I forget, but it was about like streetwear, and I forget the name of the documentary, but it was really cool, like kind of just being introduced to your journey, and when it started. And one of my questions is like, being that you started like when streetwear was like, a big thing, and being a woman and how you call it, like getting into a field where women weren't at the time, and it was just like a new space to now you still have walker wear. How have you like adjusted your branding through the years? Or do you feel that your market is still the same that it was when you first began walker wear? And if not, like how did you make that adjustment? Because I find that's the hardest thing, is creating a brand and like being consistent, but also realizing what people might have needed at one point, talking to them is not the same as it is,
Right.
a couple of years later. So how do you keep that conversation, but the integrity of why you started?
I think that's what you just said. That is it right there. I think it's finding your North Star and your reason why, and having that ethos of what it is that makes the heartbeat of your brand.
Yeah.
And for us, it is the culture and telling and storytelling through fashion, and delivering timeless quality goods. And really, we stick to basics and staples, and then we sometimes will give you a splash of fashion. But really, we know what we're here for. I think that the difference is what you said, time. So I think it's really important if you're an entrepreneur to have agility and to be adaptable and to be fluid. And so even though our ethos is the same and our premise, we are adaptable and we're always looking ahead, 5 years ahead. Now, what can we be doing? Like, we're already planning NFTs and metaverse and how we're going to storytell in that world, and thinking about collaborations and all these exciting things, and it's so much more. But I think you have to be an octopus and have tentacles, and that allows you to grow. But your mission is still in the middle, and that's the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm definitely just like finding that, like, because before I was like jewelry inspired by travel, and then we couldn't travel, and I was like, oh shoot, well, how do I still express the journey when we can't go anywhere? So I really like seeing how you've just adapted through time and still kept that persistence, because it could be, difficult. So
But that's it right there, persistence. And it might not all work, but just the fact that you keep swinging with aim, you're gonna land.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate you.
You're welcome.
I think we could, Taylor has a question. I think we can do one or maybe two more questions. Go ahead, Taylor.
Hi. So my question was, how do you like get out of your head and like become more confident in yourself, especially like just for me personally, being in the department, sometimes I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I just please don't come over here, professor, didn't have to talk, or just talking like in public settings. I'll be like, please stop looking at me. I know for me, I think maybe it's a confidence thing. So how do you, in being in your head thing, so like, what is your advice on that? Thank you.
You want to answer, Adrienne?
First of all, recognize that you've already made the goal. You've already made the first part of your goal. You were accepted to one of the top art schools in the nation. They didn't just grab you in. So obviously you've got the talent. And you have to stop second guessing yourself. Sometimes are you gonna face some difficulties? We've already talked about that. Yes, absolutely. But honor yourself. That goes back to saying, putting you number one. Honor yourself and recognize what it took for you to get where you are. And don't be afraid to reach around and pat yourself on the back, because there's a lot of days that you're the only one who's going to do that. So honor what you've done and give yourself credit for what you've done. Take a few steps back, look at yourself in the mirror and say, I did this. I did this. And then go on to the next day.
Yep. And I would add on that, I heard you talk about when you have to be public speaking, right? And you feel like you might freeze sometimes. Toastmasters is online now. So you can do Toastmasters and practice. I'm a firm believer that you keep building your confidence muscles as you keep honing your skills and adding to it. So stay in a discomfort zone. That's how you grow. So look at the things you feel like you get nervous about and think about why. If you're in your head too much, why are you in your head too much? And if it is something that makes you that nervous, then what can I do to change that? And usually facing that fear is by putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and practicing. And then you do it enough, it's you've dispelled the elephant in the room. There is no more elephant in the room. Matter of fact, raise your hand when you don't want to and speak. And then if you fumble, you realize you didn't die and you can do it again. That makes sense? Okay.
And take, if you have room in your schedule, take a poetry class, take a debate class where you are forced to get up and speak your words.
Yeah. That's why I love Toastmasters. Look into Toastmasters. Those are free and you can do them online. They're big on helping you with personal speaking too.
I think maybe we can just do one last question. And then I think we have a format for the next session, which is just rapid fire questions at both of you for the whole time. But I want to go back to some of the folks who asked questions in the chat earlier, because Ramona had a question, and I don't know if you'd like to read it out, or I can.
I guess that's on you, Tessa.
All right. So Ramona had asked about community. Oh, Ramona, you're there. Please ask your question. You're on mute, though.
Sorry, I'm on my phone.
That's okay.
So my question had to do with community and how when after students graduate, you know, you're out in the world and things become very competitive. And, you know, people tend to isolate, or, you know, everybody is making a lot of different decisions. How do you find that community so that you know, you get the support that you need to help you continue on in your journey and be this, you know, success that you want to be? So yeah, that's my question.
I can say for me, I still have friends from high school. I still have friends, very good friends from FIT. And we support each other, you know? So if you feel like your community isn't there, build the community with the people that you already know and love and respect. And sometimes that's what you have to do. Build your own community.
Yeah.
Group together with people. I love some of my classes because they have developed their own community within the class. But your tribe does find you.
Yeah.
Like I remember the day I met April, and we just kind of looked at each other like, "Who are you? Well,
Right.
Here's my number. Call me." And we've been thick as thieves since.
And I will also say that sometimes it takes a minute and it's not as quick. And I remember being the Lone Ranger, and you just have to decide how bad you really want it, because sometimes you're not going to have a tribe at first. And it's going to be the road less traveled, especially in a pandemic, you know? Yeah. So that's a reality. But knowing that everything is temporary and it's not permanent, and knowing that if you keep swinging with aim and you keep passionate about what you believe in, there are other tribe members and they will find you eventually on your journey and your travels. But sometimes that tribe right now for you might be family. It might be people outside of the immediate cipher of what you, and they just might be like words of encouragement. And most of my family members, I'm gonna be honest, they don't care what I do. Like they care that, like, you know what I mean? Like they're like, oh, we watching tonight? Is Ozark on? Like, you know, I don't need to know all of that. So you have to be prepared and don't take things personal. That's the other thing, because it's not another person's responsibility to believe in your dream. It's yours. And just remember that. And that's going to be a game changer for you.
Yeah, that hit me. So yeah, you're right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, Adrienne. Thank you, April, for making this time and giving us this gift of, you know, getting to be and listening in and participating in this conversation with you. Such gratitude. And really excited to continue this, because there is clearly an outpouring and overflowing of a desire for this, this conversation, this space, this community, and hopefully it's something we can do in person very soon, before too long.
Great. Thank you for having us. That was great.
Yes, thank all of you for taking time out to hang out with us.
I appreciate you all.
Thank you. And we'll be sending out the recording, and also stay tuned for more information on what's next, our next get together.
Good night, everyone. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Right, so much gratitude.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Good night.